For 5 years, I scrubbed the floors of Sterling Financial Corporation, invisible to everyone except when they needed something cleaned up. My name is Maya, and this is the story of how I went from being called a brainless janitor to saving the company that treated me like dirt. It started on a Monday morning in March. I arrived at 5 a.m. same as always, to clean the executive floors before the important people arrived. The marble floors of the 47th floor gleamed under the fluorescent lights as I pushed my cart through the maze of glass offices. Each door had a nameplate: FA VP of Operations, Director of Acquisitions, Chief Financial Officer, names of people who earned more in a month than I made in a year. I had been working at Sterling for 5 years, ever since my divorce left me with nothing but my pride and a desperate need to pay rent. The other cleaning staff were kind enough, but we all understood the unspoken rule. We were invisible. We came early, left late, and stayed out of the way of the real employees. That Monday was different because of Kevin Morrison, the new facilities manager. He was young, probably in his early 30s, with perfectly styled hair and expensive suits that probably cost more than my monthly salary. From the moment he started 2 weeks ago, he made it clear that he thought the cleaning staff was beneath his notice, except when he wanted to remind us of our place. Maya. His sharp voice cut through the quiet morning air as I was emptying trash cans in the conference room. What is this? I looked up to see him holding a stack of papers I had carefully placed on the side table after cleaning around them. They were financial reports, quarterly earnings statements, budget projections, the kind of documents that were scattered across every desk and conference table in this building. I moved them to clean the table. Mr. Morrison, I was going to put them back exactly where. Don't touch documents that don't belong to you, he interrupted. His voice dripping with condescension. These are confidential financial reports. Do you even know what these numbers mean? I bit my tongue, swallowing the words that wanted to come out. Of course I knew what they meant. I could read those reports better than half the executives in this building. But Kevin Morrison didn't need to know that Maya the cleaning lady had a master's degree in business administration from MIT, or that I had spent 15 years as a senior financial analyst before my life fell apart. No, sir, I said quietly, keeping my eyes down. I am sorry. That is what I thought. He smirked, gathering the papers. Stick to what you know, mopping and emptying trash. Leave the thinking to people who actually have brains. The other employees in the conference room, 3 junior analysts, and a secretary, snickered quietly. I felt my cheeks burn with humiliation, but I nodded and continued cleaning. This wasn't the first time Kevin had humiliated me, and I knew it wouldn't be the last. As the weeks passed, Kevin's treatment of me got worse. He seemed to take pleasure in finding fault with my work, calling me into his office to lecture me about substandard performance in front of whoever happened to be there. He made jokes about my intelligence, my appearance, my worth as a human being. Maya, did you forget to clean the men's restroom on the 45th floor again? He would ask loudly in the break room, knowing full well that I had cleaned it perfectly. Maybe we need to get you one of those picture schedules they use for children, since reading seems to be challenging for you. The worst part wasn't the humiliation, it was watching the other employees laugh along with him. People I had worked alongside for years. People I had helped when they stayed late and needed coffee or someone to talk to about their problems. They all became strangers when Kevin was around, afraid to defend me and risk becoming his next target. But Kevin Morrison had no idea who he was really dealing with. Every night after my shift ended, I would stay in the building. Officially, I was just finishing up some extra cleaning tasks. Unofficially, I was doing something else entirely. I had noticed something in those quarterly reports that Kevin had snatched away from me that first day: numbers that didn't add up, expenditures that seemed inflated, revenue projections that were suspiciously optimistic. Using my master key, I would slip into the executive offices after midnight and photograph financial documents with my phone. Budget reports, expense accounts, investment portfolios, audit findings, anything I could get my hands on. I told myself I was just keeping my skills sharp, staying current with financial analysis techniques, but deep down, I think I knew I was looking for something. What I found was worse than I had imagined. Sterling Financial was in serious trouble. The company was hemorrhaging money through a series of bad investments, and fraudulent expense reports. Millions of dollars had been diverted into shell companies owned by board members. The quarterly reports that Kevin had lectured me about. They were complete fabrications, designed to hide the fact that the company was months away from bankruptcy. I spent 3 months carefully documenting everything, cross-referencing documents, building a complete picture of the financial fraud that was destroying the company. Every night, I would return to my tiny studio apartment and work until dawn, creating spreadsheets, analyzing cash flow statements, tracing money through complex webs of fake companies and offshore accounts. The more I discovered, the angrier I became, not just at the executives who were stealing from the company, but at Kevin Morrison and everyone else who treated me like I was too stupid to understand anything more complex than which end of a mop to hold. They had no idea that the brainless janitor they mocked was building a case that could save their jobs or destroy their careers. The confrontation I had been dreading finally came on a Friday afternoon in late September. I was cleaning Kevin's office when he walked in with 2 other managers, their voices loud with frustration. "The quarterly numbers are a disaster," one of them was saying. "If the investors see these real figures, they'll pull out immediately." "We need to find someone to blame," Kevin replied, settling into his chair, "someone expendable." That is when he noticed me emptying his trash can. "Maya," he barked. "Get out. This is a private conversation about things you couldn't possibly understand." Something in his tone, the casual cruelty of it, made me snap. "Actually," I said quietly, straightening up and looking him directly in the eyes for the first time in months, "I think I understand more than you realize." The room fell silent. Kevin's face reddened with anger. "Excuse me?" he said, his voice dangerously low. "I said I understand," I repeated, my voice stronger now. "I understand that this company is 3 months away from bankruptcy. I understand that someone has been falsifying financial reports and embezzling millions of dollars. I understand that you are looking for a scapegoat because the real thieves are too well connected to touch." Kevin shot to his feet, his face now purple with rage. "You have no idea what you are talking about," he sputtered. "You are a cleaning lady, you can barely read, let alone understand complex Sterling Financial Corporation," I interrupted. My voice calm and professional, reported a net profit of $47 million in the last quarter, but according to the actual bank statements, cash flow reports, and expense documentation, the company actually lost $23 million. The difference was hidden through creative accounting, involving at least 7 shell companies, and falsified vendor payments. The 2 other managers were staring at me with their mouths open. Kevin looked like he was about to have a heart attack. "That is impossible," he whispered. "You couldn't know that. You couldn't understand those documents." I reached into my cleaning cart and pulled out a thick folder I had been carrying with me for weeks, waiting for exactly this moment. "The Meridian Group," I said, opening the folder and reading from my notes. "Supposed consulting fees of $2.3 million. Except Meridian Group doesn't exist. It is a shell company registered to the same address as board member Richard Sterling's vacation home in the Bahamas, Phoenix. Analytics $1.8 million in research fees for a company that has no employees, no office, and no legitimate business operations." Should I continue? Kevin collapsed back into his chair, his face now white as paper. "Who are you?" he whispered. "My name is Maya Chen," I said, standing straighter than I had in months. "I have a master's degree in business administration from MIT and 15 years of experience as a senior financial analyst. Before my divorce, I was the lead forensic accountant for Harrison & Associates, where I specialized in uncovering corporate fraud." The silence in the room was deafening. "For the past 5 years, I've been working here as a cleaning lady, because it was the only job I could get when I needed to start over. For the past 3 months, I've been investigating this company's finances on my own time, because I noticed irregularities in the documents I saw while cleaning." I closed the folder and looked directly at Kevin. "You were right about one thing, Mr. Morrison, I do know my place. My place is wherever my skills and intelligence can be put to good use. And right now, my skills are the only thing standing between this company and complete financial collapse." One of the other managers, I think his name was Williams, finally found his voice. You have evidence of fraud? I have complete documentation of a systematic embezzlement scheme involving at least $12 million over the past 18 months, I replied. Bank records, forged signatures, falsified invoices, money transfers to offshore accounts, everything the FBI would need for a federal prosecution. Kevin was staring at me like he'd seen a ghost. But you are just a cleaning lady. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Yes, I am, and for 5 years, you've treated me like I was too stupid to deserve basic human dignity. You've humiliated me, mocked me, and made my life miserable because you thought I was beneath you. I picked up my cleaning supplies and headed toward the door. The company's board meeting is Monday morning, I said without turning around. They're going to discuss the quarterly financial reports and the potential bankruptcy filing. I think they might be very interested in what I've discovered. I paused at the doorway and looked back at Kevin one final time. Oh, and Mr. Morrison, you were wrong about something else too. I do know how to read. In fact, I can read balance sheets well enough to know that your expense account shows some very interesting charges. Did you really think nobody would notice the $50,000 in office supplies that were actually payments to your girlfriend's consulting company? The look of absolute terror on his face was worth 5 years of humiliation. I walked out of that office with my head held high for the first time since I'd started working there. The weekend was the longest of my life. I spent Saturday and Sunday organizing my evidence, preparing my presentation, and trying to decide exactly how much I wanted to reveal. I could have simply sent an anonymous tip to the authorities and let them handle it. But after years of being treated as invisible, I wanted to be seen. I wanted everyone who had laughed at Kevin's jokes and dismissed me as a brainless janitor to know exactly who had saved their jobs. Monday morning arrived gray and rainy, which seemed appropriate for what was about to unfold. I arrived at the office early, as always, but instead of heading to the supply closet to get my cleaning cart, I took the elevator to the 50th floor executive conference room. The board meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m. At 8:55, I knocked on the conference room door. "Come in," called a voice from inside. I opened the door to find 12 of Sterling Financial's most senior executives, seated around a massive mahogany table. At the head sat Margaret Sterling, the company's CEO and daughter of the founder. She was a small woman in her 60s, with silver hair and intelligent eyes that had seen the financial industry evolve over 4 decades. "I am sorry," she said, looking confused. "Are you here to clean the room? The meeting hasn't started yet." "Actually, Miss Sterling," I said, stepping into the room and closing the door behind me, "I am here about the meeting. My name is Maya Chen, and I have information about the company's financial situation that I believe you need to hear." A murmur went around the table. Several board members looked annoyed at the interruption. "Miss, I think there has been some mistake," said Richard Sterling, Margaret's brother, and the company's CFO. "This is a private board meeting. If you have a cleaning issue, you need to speak with Kevin Morrison," I interrupted, "the facilities manager who has been embezzling money through fake vendor payments. I don't think that would be very productive." The room fell silent. Margaret Sterling leaned forward, studying my face with sharp eyes. "Sit down," she said finally, gesturing to an empty chair at the far end of the table. I sat, placing my folder on the polished table in front of me. "You have 60 seconds to explain why you are here," Margaret said. "And it better be important." "Sterling Financial Corporation is going bankrupt," I said simply. "According to the quarterly reports you are about to review, the company made a profit of $47 million last quarter. In reality, the company lost $23 million. The difference has been hidden through a combination of falsified expense reports, fake vendor payments, and money laundered through shell companies." Richard Sterling turned red with anger. "This is outrageous," he sputtered. "Security, get this woman out of here immediately." "Wait," Margaret said, holding up her hand. She was still looking at me with those sharp eyes. "You are making very serious accusations. Do you have proof?" I opened my folder and pulled out a thick stack of documents. Bank statements showing transfers to shell companies, forged signatures on vendor agreements, expense reports for non-existent services, email communications about hiding losses from auditors. I spread the papers across the table, 18 months of systematic fraud totaling approximately $12 million. The board members began reaching for the documents, their faces growing paler as they read. "Where did you get these?" Margaret asked quietly. "I work here," I said. "I've worked here for 5 years, every night after my cleaning shift. I stayed late and documented what I found in the financial records." "You are a cleaning lady," Richard said weakly, as if trying to convince himself that this couldn't be happening. "I am a cleaning lady with a master's degree in business administration from MIT and 15 years of experience in forensic accounting," I replied. "Before my divorce, I was a senior financial analyst. After my divorce, cleaning offices was the only work I could find to pay my bills." Margaret Sterling was reading through the documents, her expression growing grimmer with each page. "These shell companies," she said without looking up. "Phoenix Analytics, Meridian Group, Sterling Solutions, all registered to addresses owned by board members or their family members," I confirmed. "The money was transferred out of Sterling Financial's accounts, passed through multiple fake companies to obscure the paper trail, then deposited into personal accounts in the Cayman Islands." Richard Sterling had gone completely white. This is impossible," he whispered. "The auditors never found anything." "Because the auditors only reviewed the falsified reports," I said. "The real transactions were hidden in supplementary accounts and coded as legitimate business expenses. It is actually a fairly sophisticated fraud scheme. Whoever designed it understands both corporate accounting and money laundering techniques." Margaret Sterling set down the papers and looked directly at me. "Maya Chen," she said slowly. "You've been working as a cleaning lady in this building for 5 years." "Yes, ma'am. And in that time you've been conducting your own investigation into this company's finances." "Yes, ma'am. Why?" The question hung in the air for a long moment. I thought about Kevin Morrison's smug face, about 5 years of being treated as less than human, about all the times I had bitten my tongue and swallowed my pride, because I knew something was wrong. I said finally, and because someone needed to care enough to find out what it was. Margaret Sterling was quiet for a long time, studying the documents spread across the table. "Miss Chen," she said, eventually, "are you familiar with the term forensic accounting?" "Yes, ma'am. It was my specialty before I came to work here, and you've essentially conducted a complete forensic audit of this company's finances without being asked, without being paid, and without anyone knowing you were doing it." "Yes, ma'am." She looked around the table at the other board members, all of whom were staring at the evidence of the fraud that had nearly destroyed their company. "Well," Margaret said with the ghost of a smile, "I think we're going to need a new chief financial officer." The room erupted in shocked murmurs. Richard Sterling shot to his feet, his face purple with rage. "You can't be serious," he shouted. "She is a janitor. She cleans toilets for a living." Margaret's voice, when she spoke, was ice cold. "She is also the person who just saved this company from bankruptcy and federal prosecution, which is more than I can say for our current CFO, who apparently didn't notice that $12 million was being stolen from under his nose." She turned back to me. "Miss Chen, I am offering you the position of Chief Financial Officer of Sterling Financial Corporation, effective immediately. Your first task will be working with federal investigators to recover the stolen funds and prosecute the individuals responsible for this fraud." I sat in stunned silence for a moment, barely able to process what was happening. "What about my current job?" I asked weakly. Margaret Sterling actually smiled. "I think we can find someone else to empty the trash cans." 6 months later, I was sitting in my corner office on the 51st floor, reviewing the final report from the FBI's investigation into the Sterling financial fraud case. 12 people had been arrested, including several board members and Kevin Morrison, who turned out to be taking kickbacks from the fake vendors. Over $10 million had been recovered and returned to the company. Sterling Financial was not only solvent, but thriving under its new financial management structure. Our quarterly profit reports were accurate, our audits were clean, and investor confidence had been completely restored. There was a knock on my office door. "Come in," I called. Kevin Morrison walked in, flanked by 2 FBI agents. He was wearing handcuffs and an orange jumpsuit, being transported to federal prison to begin his 7-year sentence for fraud and embezzlement. I asked if I could see you, he said quietly, before they take me away. I gestured for him to sit. The agents remained by the door. I want to know how you did it, he said. How did you know? I leaned back in my chair and looked at this man who had made my life miserable for so long. Kevin, I said. You spent 2 years telling me that I was too stupid to understand basic financial concepts. You humiliated me in front of our colleagues. You treated me like I was worthless. He nodded, unable to meet my eyes. But the whole time you were mocking my intelligence. You never bothered to ask who I really was or what I was really capable of. You saw a cleaning lady and assumed that was all I could ever be. I picked up a framed diploma from my desk, the MIT that I had finally hung on my wall after hiding it for 5 years. The truth is, Kevin, I've always known exactly who I am and what I am worth. The only person who was confused about that was you. Kevin Morrison was led away in handcuffs a few minutes later. I never saw him again. As I write this, 2 years have passed since that Monday morning when I walked into the board meeting as a cleaning lady and walked out as a CFO. Sterling Financial is now one of the most profitable and ethically managed companies in our industry. I've been featured on the covers of 3 business magazines as the forensic accountant who saved Sterling Financial. But the title I am most proud of isn't CFO or forensic accountant or MIT graduate, it is survivor, because that is what this story is really about, not the spectacular downfall of corrupt executives or the dramatic revelation in a boardroom. It is about the quiet dignity of refusing to let other people define your worth. It is about knowing who you are even when the world tries to make you invisible. For 5 years, I cleaned floors and emptied trash cans, and I was proud of that work because it was honest work that paid my bills and kept my life together when everything else had fallen apart. The problem was never that I was a cleaning lady, the problem was with people who thought that being a cleaning lady made me less than human. I learned something important during those 5 years of being invisible. Your value as a person isn't determined by your job title or your salary or what other people think of you. Your value comes from who you are when nobody's watching, from how you treat people who can't do anything for you, from your willingness to do what is right even when it is difficult. Kevin Morrison and the executives who participated in the fraud scheme thought that money and status gave them the right to treat other people as disposable. They were wrong. In the end, it wasn't their expensive suits or corner offices or graduate degrees that mattered, it was their character, or lack thereof. Today, when I walk through the offices of Sterling Financial, I make it a point to know the names of every person who works here, from the newest intern to the most senior partner. I know the cleaning staff, the security guards, the maintenance workers, the cafeteria employees, all the people who keep this company running while the executives get the credit, and I pay them well, very well. Because I learned something else during my years as a cleaning lady, the people who do the hardest, most essential work are often the least valued and the most overlooked. That is not just unfair, it is stupid business. The custodian who notices that the server room is running too hot might prevent a $1 million computer failure. The security guard who spots an unusual pattern in after hours access might prevent industrial espionage. The cleaning lady who understands financial documents might save the entire company from bankruptcy, but only if someone is willing to listen. My name is Maya Chen. I am the CFO of Sterling Financial Corporation, and I am proud to say that I am also the woman who proved that intelligence, integrity, and hard work matter more than job titles or other people's opinions. The janitor became the CEO not because she got lucky, but because she never forgot who she really was.